Some of you all who know me personally will obviously already know that I was home educated, and for everyone else who does not, then the cat's out of the bag. I was homeschooled. I've been wanting to do this video for a while just because it's something that I get questions about from time to time, and it's also just something that I wanted to share, and I wanted to be able to give back some of my experience to other people, but it's become, I guess, more timely for me to do so considering everything that's happening with COVID-19 and students most likely having to learn at home, whether it's virtually or being homeschooled. And I know like students and parents and families alike just have a lot of questions about that. Quick disclaimer, this is kind of just a general overview of my own history as well as tips and tricks. So if you watch this video and you feel like there's things I missed or didn't get to, it's just because, you know, there's a million things I could talk about and it would be like a million hours long. So if there's something in particular that you want to know about or information that you need, this is a collaborative effort. You know, just drop me comments, hit me up on social media. Whatever it is you want to know more about or you have questions about, please just let me know. I will do a video on it. It is no problem. I'm totally open to doing like a series or answering different questions. I just kind of wanted to ease us into the topic today. Also, I did a super awesome, really fun podcast interview with Cleverly Changing a couple of months ago where I actually talk about my educational experience. Cleverly Changing is a phenomenal podcast that I recommend for anyone who is interested in home education or if they're just interested in being more involved in their child's education. I highly recommend. I'm going to link that in the description box below. You obviously don't have to just listen to mine. There's a lot of awesome information there, and you know, it's a resource that I want to point you all to. So from the kindergarten to 12th grade, I went to school at my dining room table. I did not go back and forth. There was no public education in between outside of like the couple of weeks or however long it was I spent in driver's ed at my local high school. But outside of that, I was in a classroom of one. I do not have any brothers or sisters. So that is a unique, highly unique situation in itself. So if we rewind back to the early to mid 90s, I was born in 93. My mom was listening to Focus on the Family. Yes, you know, Dr. James Dobson, very much, you know, evangelical radio, but she was listening and they did a segment on homeschooling and she was kind of like, you know, like that's interesting. And so she started to kind of research and read more about home education. She brought it up to my dad and they kind of started seeing that, you know, this was potentially a viable option. You know, that was kind of the beginning of a lot of kids being diagnosed with like ADHD, being prescribed Ritalin. A couple of years later, we had kind of the beginnings of our modern day kind of school shooting era. Unfortunately, you know, that was a couple of years before Columbine, and there was just kind of a lot of things that were going on. We didn't live in an area that had a bad educational system by any means, but my mom, I think, was just kind of like concerned about some of these things that were happening and wanted to give me what she felt might be a better environment and Head Start. So my parents did the research. They were on board. They were like, let's try this. And at the very beginning, it was very much a try this. You know, anything that you do in life for the most part, if it doesn't work, you can do something else. So our goal as a family, I didn't have much of a say in it, but the idea was that we were going to try this for a few years. If it worked, then we would keep going. If it didn't, I would go to school, and that I would probably be homeschooled up until high school. So I remember I started kindergarten. I had I actually had a uniform. My mom came out of the Catholic school, and I think that's kind of like something that she thought was going to be cool. I only had the uniform for kindergarten, the year of kindergarten, but my mom completely transformed this third bedroom that we had, which was like our den, into the most amazing classroom that had everything on there from like letters and numbers, and there were books, and I remember just loving that room so much, and I never ever ever wanted to leave it. Like sometimes I would just be in there like coloring and stuff, and my dad would be like, school can't be all day, like let her out. My mom was like, school's over, like I told her we were done, and she just wants to be in there. So I absolutely loved school, and it was a great experience. In terms of like a schedule, we got up, I think, at like a normal time of day. Like we probably got up at like 7 or whatever, and I ate breakfast. I probably had school like all morning. We probably stopped around noon for lunch. When I was younger, we would have like playtime. When I was older, it was like we'd probably do a little bit more in the afternoon. And I was usually done with schoolwork like in session probably around like 2 or so. I would do like homework in the afternoon, or sometimes I would just have my free time. I might be watching TV or something in the afternoon and do my homework in the evening. That was kind of like up to me. Now, people, family members, relatives, friends, people we met at the grocery store would question things a lot. Like, how is she going to get her socialization? Like, asking my parents, do you all know how to teach? There was a lot of questioning. And I'm sure my parents probably doubted themselves a lot at times. Now, obviously, it's sometimes easier to teach, like, a little kid their ABCs than it is to, teach algebra later on. So things were more challenging as we got going. Something that I try to always remind families is that home education is an educational option like anything else. We think about the public school system because it's there and it's like, it's like a given, but everyone has a choice. Our resources might be different, obviously, that may limit or expand those choices. But we have educational choices. Public schools, charter schools, private schools, homeschools, boarding schools, like you name it. There's tons of different, religious schools. There's a lot of different schools that you can send your child to based on your values and what you think is best for your family. And home education is just another option. It has its benefits, it has its drawbacks. Every type of education does. So I think one of the big questions people have now particularly is the idea of homeschooling your child while also working. Because typically, if a family chooses to homeschool, at least one parent is not working, or at least not working a traditional job, because they are serving the role of educator, and so therefore that is where their time is devoted. So when it started, my dad went out to work, and my mom was homeschooling me. She worked part-time in the evenings, but that was it. Around, I want to say maybe first or second grade, my mom got legit a godsend opportunity, job opportunity to work full-time, remotely from home. From literally that time all the way to the recession 2008. So that was probably about first or second grade through 8th grade. My mom worked full-time while also homeschooling me. If you're asking how did my mom educate me and do homeschool at the same time, I don't know, because she is a boss. I have no idea. I actually now recognize, like working full-time myself, that was a challenge. Something that I want everyone to know is that if this is a situation that you're going to be in yourself, like, it is going to be challenging. I don't want you to think that just because other people have done it, that it should be easy for you. Every person is not a good teacher, educated or not educated. Yes, being homeschooled was very much like having, like a private tutor, so to speak. But at the same time, it wasn't always just like a parent in my face teaching me something every single day. I would have lessons at times, and then workbooks that I would have to go through and study and read myself, and then, that could be like an hour or so, and then we would come back and discuss the things that I had learned, or go over, questions that I had, whatever the case may be. I think what was great for my mom, especially in the latter years, is that as I did become a little bit more independent, she was able to kind of give me assignments, kind of work for a while, take a break, come back, and, kind of alternate in a way. Other times she devoted that morning time completely to me, and then from afternoon on she was working. Even though she was working a full-time job, she was working a job, so there was not like a set hours. Like, it wasn't 9 to 5, like you have to be at your computer from 9 to 5. Like, she had people in her team that were sometimes doing work at like 2 in the morning because they were night owls. So sometimes remote work, as we all know now, which is becoming more and more prevalent, doesn't always have to be done at a certain time of day. If you can, as much as possible, try to schedule those things out. If you know that you're going to have to do calls from this period of the day, or you're going to have to be in meetings at this time, you need to set that so that you're able to function and work around that schedule. And one thing that you learn when you are doing homeschooling is that school does not have to take all day long. Obviously, it's that way because kids have to be in school while their parents are working, but it's just not the most efficient, use of your time. That is a whole different conversation and a whole nother video. But the one thing that you will learn quickly is that you can learn and get the information that your child needs to get in a few hours, and it doesn't have to take up the entire day. There are tons of companies that sell curriculum specifically for home education. They are not cheap. And I will try to find some resources to kind of share. We never purchased an entire curriculum. My mom from time to time purchased different parts or textbooks from curriculums, especially as I got in latter grades. And when I was younger, there were kind of like these all-encompassing workbooks that my mom would use. There was this fantastic book series. It was like everything your first grader needs to know, second, third, and it went up like first through like sixth grade, and we really worked out of that book for a long time. And then my mom was always doing research and getting handouts off the internet. We are in the age of information, so there's going to be tons of ways that you can get books and resources. There's YouTube now. There's just so many different things to help your student to learn, and to help you learn too, because you're kind of going back to school with them and in a sense kind of learning things with them. And there's a lot of information with just like federal and state guidelines of what kinds of skills and subjects your student needs to master at any given grade that they're in. And that was what my mom always kind of used as a guideline, just to make sure that, I was getting all of the information that I needed. Homeschool rules vary from state to state. In Ohio, we actually had to go and kind of get officially credited at the end of each year and show the work that I had done. In North Carolina, it was just like a free-for-all. No one ever came and checked anything that we were doing. So it depends on where you live. When I was younger, I was very industrious. Like, I created my own school newspaper. I had my own like Halloween parties. I did all of those things. I think a lot of my probably creativity and ingenuity came from that, and having to like create these situations for myself. When I was younger, like there were two reasons I wanted to go to public school at certain periods of my life, and that was because I wanted to ride the school bus and I wanted to have a locker. Now I realize I miss nothing by not riding the school bus. And the locker situation, it's like it's a locker, you know what I mean? Now I can go to the gym when COVID is over and get a locker. But like, when you're young, those things are really important to you. So if you're making this transition with your student and they are a young individual, they're a kid or they're a teenager, those things are important to you, and you should honor the fact that that's important to your child, while also being able to give them the perspective that they will eventually have as they get older and they mature. I think the main point that I want to get across to everyone watching this who is considering this journey is that you are your child's biggest advocate, and you are the first person that can teach your child to advocate for themselves and to respect education for themselves. Even if you're sitting here and now you've got, a 10th grader in your lap and you're like, I have no idea what chemistry is, I cannot help them, you can help them find people and resources to understand this material. And that's really what the role of an educator should always be. It's not just the fact that they're teaching information or they're dumping information into your lap. An educator should be able to foster and inspire a love for education, to give a student the tools to seek out education, to seek out information, I should say. And an educator should be able to give a student the confidence to know that they can go out and learn anything on this planet that they want to learn. For students who aren't going to be in the classroom from day to day, is there a loss there? Absolutely there is. But it doesn't mean that their education has to completely suffer, become null and void. And it doesn't mean that they can't still have a rich experience online. I want to let you know that you can do it. It's going to be okay, and it's not just going to be okay, but you all are going to absolutely thrive. Good luck this year. I am in this with you. Like I said, this is not the end of the conversation. It is just the beginning. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video.